Hi, guys, and welcome back to Your Inner Spark. My name is Lana, and I am on a mission to help women eradicate shame so that they can step into their full potential and build the life of their dreams. Today, we welcome Taylor Harris. Taylor and I actually connected via social media, as she is also on a mission to help women eradicate shame when it comes to their air quote flaws. Thank you, Taylor. I'm so grateful to be sitting in this conversation with you today.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me and for honestly even responding to me. I appreciate that because there's so much like spam and stuff out there.
Of course. So the first question I ask every single guest, Taylor, is when is the first time you felt your inner spark? And that's just that inner spirit guide, tug, pull, whatever you want to call it, that has nudged you and brought you to the path that you're on today.
So I would say honestly like this year, because I sort of, like I told you, fell into the finance industry, specifically the mortgage industry. And as you know, it's once you get into it, it's really hard to get out because it's like a niche, you know what I mean? And like, you're like, where can I apply these skills elsewhere? I don't know, So I was in it for quite a while. And then, like home improvement finance was the last place I was in. And I was let go. But I quit before they let me go. So that's a whole another story for another day. Real crazy, but either way. Um, so after that, that was at the end of October of this year. I was just thinking to myself, I had all these jobs that I was applying to just because, as soon as you like get let go from a job or quit a job, you're like, baby, like, let me just apply to freaking everything I possibly can. I was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in finance. I'm good at it, but like I feel like I'm 32 years old and like I feel like I don't have any like true purpose in life. Like I don't have a passion for this. So I was like, let me take some time and think about what do I have passion for? What brings me joy? And see if there's a way that I can possibly make money from that instead of having to have an obligatory, job and whatever. So um finance, shopping, and like not shopping as in like spending money, but shopping as in like finding the right things for the right times, the right people, whatever. That connected with like doing that for others is sort of a path that I'm on right now. And we can talk about it late, like maybe towards the end. I have like a whole website that I've built and I've got like a plan, I've got a business strategy and all this stuff. But basically right now I'm just trying to focus on like how I can build myself and build my, I guess, presence, because you have to have an online presence these days.
No, you're good. I totally can relate to that because I told you this before we started recording, or I think via email, but I worked in finance for almost a decade and I actually got laid off in October, but it was something I had manifested because I had told myself like by the end of the year, I have to quit my job and take a plunge into entrepreneurship. And I felt like I was kind of peeking over that cliff, like that ledge for years. And like every time I would peek over, it felt very scary. So I'd take a step back. And getting laid off was the universe being like, all right, bitch, you're ready. And I just got pushed off the cliff.
Yep.
And we've been rolling with it ever since, but I still feel like I do not know what I'm doing. And I don't know if you ever get to a point where you feel like you know what you're doing. So you just have to do a trust fall and take a leap of faith and just start before you feel ready. But I love that for you because doing something that provides you purpose and passion and brings you joy, that's truly what life is all about, right? It's not about the corporate 9-to-5. So how we connected on social media was you actually shared some very vulnerable parts of your own journey online, which I immediately connected to when I saw, because if you're listening to this podcast, you know by now that that's my jam. I love when people share the intimate parts of what they're navigating. So can you tell us a little bit more about your journey and what led you to get to a point of wanting to share stuff online, and just give everybody a little bit of backstory?
Absolutely. So I remember like the very first time I ever like had like a trick episode, right? Where I like pulled something out knowingly and continued with it. And it was in the 5th grade, long division. Couldn't do it, still can't do it, honestly. Like if you can't do it on like a simple calculator, I'm out. Even though I was in finance, which I was very good at, but it's a different kind of math,
Yeah.
You can do it all.
I get it.
Anyways, so I couldn't do it, and it was silent. And I had this really mean teacher named Miss Silva. She put me in she took me out of recess every day and made me sit in her room and like clean the chalkboard and shit. It was not cool. Anyways, so I was just felt like sort of terrorized, and everyone's there like doing everything, and they're getting all their answers, and I'm literally just like, I don't even know where to begin. So I just started like, and now I have fake eyelashes on right now, but I just like started like going like this out of like, I guess, anxiety. Procrastination is like the main thing. And before I knew it, so like, I don't know if you've ever like messed with your eyelashes before, just in general. I'm sure you have, because you're, 28 years old. I'm sure at some point in your life. But if you like if you like mess with one and it like curls the wrong way, you can feel that like it like affects the other ones, for me at least. So
Yeah.
I think that is what made me want to like keep going, because I was like, oh, well, that feels out of place. So let me like keep doing that, right? So I can't remember if it was like that. I don't think it was that day, but it was definitely like within the same week, month, whatever. I didn't have any eyelashes, and my mom, who is a baby boomer, love her so much, and she's definitely progressed now. But this was back in the 90s or early 2000s. She didn't really understand what anxiety disorders were, or like anything related to that, because Catholic, as I'm sure you can understand, like Catholic, very traditional, things like that. So she took me to the doctor, and the doctor I saw was lovely, but he was like a Chinese medicine man, literally. Like everything he did was very holistic. Like he didn't know anything about mental disorders or whatever. So he said, okay, well, why don't you try these three things? Make her wear gloves all the time. Okay, yeah, make a fifth grader wear gloves all the time. I don't even know if my school would allow that, because I went to private Catholic school and I had to wear a uniform, like a strict uniform. And then he said, try Vaseline on her fingertips, or hot sauce on my fingertips. None of those make any sense for anybody of any age, honestly. So there really wasn't a true solution that was suggested to me. And it was just basically like, and I don't mean to, I would not speak ill of my mom. I'm just saying this is how it was at the time. Love her so much, but this is how it was at the time. She basically was like, sort of like shaming me into like not doing it again. So like, what is wrong? Like, you look crazy. You have no eyelashes. Like, why do you look like this? Right. So I guess once my eyelashes started growing back in, I started messing with my eyebrows a little bit, because my eyebrows were a lot thicker and I could hide that more, I guess. So like I would just like use like my right. And I remember I would take my brother's like Swiss Army knife, the little red ones that have all the little gadgets. And there was like a little tiny pair of tweezers in there. And I would take those out. Like I'd go into his room, take those out, go back into my room, go in front of the mirror, and just like whatever. And I guess like doing it in secret, making sure like no one would see at the time, should have been a huge red flag. But I was 11, or you know what I mean? Like, you don't think about those sorts of things. So long story short, let's cut forward to high school, because I had a lot more going on. Like, and also like the way that you look to other people is so, 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 so important to you in high school, at least for girls. So I definitely was being way more conscious of not having no eyelashes. Fake eyelashes weren't like a
Yes.
thing back then. I mean, they existed, but I wasn't going to the Walmart and having my mom pick me up a pair. You know what I mean? So it sort of manifested in different ways. Like a little bit during high school, like I would like mess with like my pores and stuff. You know what I mean? Um, and then same thing with college. But I was very pleasantly distracted with everything, from like boys crushes to like I was a big partier back then, partying, whatever, hanging out with my friends, school, studying, very into studying as well, like got great grades. So I had a lot less like, I'm settled now, like I'm married, I own a home, I've got my dog, my husband, all that good stuff. So like I still go out and I have a lot of fun, blah blah blah, I do things, but like it's not my number one goal in life now is to like, okay, let's get dressed tonight, let's look amazing, and let's go get us some mans, you know? So I think when I got more settled in life, A, and then B, when COVID hit, and I hate blaming COVID for things, but it really was like a huge factor. So like I was in an office with a few people, and then all of a sudden there was no people. It was just me and my husband, who is named Taylor. So if I say something and it sounds like I'm talking in the third person, I'm probably talking about him. That confuses people a lot. Um, but anyway, so it was just me and him, and he was in mortgage sales, so he's just on the phone on his headset all the time, pacing back and forth. So it was just me, and I also was new, had very piss poor training, if any, and I like had nothing to do. I had nothing in my pipeline because I was new, nothing to work on. There's no one around me, no one looking. Husband's just pacing back and forth. So I just like started, I don't know, doing this, right? And like what I was doing at the time, and what like I guess continues to happen to this day, not today, but like it's a lifelong struggle. It's gonna be there for forever. I was just like feeling for any hair that was like coarse, because I have stick straight hair. I curled it for you today.
It looks great.
Thanks, babe. And I just like was like, okay, you're an alien. Like, I don't like you. Like, you're curly or like coarse or whatever. Like, get out. And it sort of became like, I don't really know how to explain. Your brain shuts off for a second, a few minutes. Sometimes it can be honestly, truly like an hour. Like, not anymore, because, I've found ways to correct myself, check myself before I wreck myself. But like before, when you saw in my video, like how bald I was, I my brain would literally just turn off, and I would just like my eyeballs would just like focus in on one thing or something, and then I would literally just go like this, find like a coarse hair somewhere on my head, and then this arm would get tired, and then I would have to switch, and then I would use this arm. And it's exhausting, both physically and mentally, because the entire time, like, yes, I say your brain is shut off, but like your subconscious is still on and it's yelling at you the entire time. It's like, dude, stop. You know what you're doing is bad. There's nothing good that can come of this. Let your hair be your hair. You know what I mean? But you just like keep going. And then in your head, it's like, okay, let me get like one more good one more like really randomly curly hair or something like that. For some people, I don't do this, but I saw a therapist who specializes in this. And she told me and asked me this, and I don't, but I obviously don't, wouldn't shame or judge anyone who does. Some people with my disorder eat their hair afterwards. And I find that that would be so hard to like I feel like that would be so hard to get over, because you see, those like videos and things like that, like people with, what is it, pica, I think it's called, who just have to like uncontrollably eat things, and that's like near impossible to cure, you know what I mean? So I feel like that part of my disorder, while I don't struggle with it, a lot of people do. I feel like that's something that would be really hard for anyone to admit. Like I can openly be like, hey, like look at me when I was bald, like I pulled all my hair out. But that part I feel like would be really, really tough to come to terms with. And so I think like, I don't know really where I was like specifically going with that, but I feel like that's something important to highlight, because there are probably a lot of people out there who struggle with that specific aspect and would never tell a soul. You know what I mean? So basically, I guess we hear you when we see you, and we're here for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that's where I am. That's sort of where I am today. I could tell you a little bit more about the like baldness and my wedding, but I feel like I've been going on and on and on, and I don't want to take up like too much time on like one topic. So I'm just gonna let you lead for a minute.
You're so good. No, this is all great background. So, when Taylor had sent me a message, she had told me that she had struggled with trichotillomania. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. Honestly, I had to go Google it. So if I had not heard of that terminology before, I'm assuming there are other people that have also not heard of that terminology. So if you were just to give a very Barney style overview, I mean, you've done a pretty good job of explaining how it presents itself, but it's an anxiety disorder where you have an impulse to pluck your own hair, right? To pull your own hair.
Yes.
Am missing any components of that?
Um, yes and no. So, sorry, my mouse is doing something weird. Okay. So that is the description of it. But there are different things that go into it for different people. So, for me, I actually like put it on a little board for you so that I could have it all like written out. So I've got really bad. So I saw a psychiatrist and I saw a therapist also that specializes in this. So like I kind of sort of was able to break it down. For me, I have like really bad ADHD, like clinically terrible. And that causes my brain to have like super, super rapid thoughts. You know what I mean? And that causes anxiety. And the way that my anxiety, like, so the ADHD drives the anxiety, and then the anxiety like drives slash manifests itself in the act of an impulse control disorder. So that's not the same thing as obsessive compulsive disorder, but it's like in the same category. So like impulse control, like I can't control my impulse to do X, right? And so just my little board. It's probably
I
backwards
love
though.
that.
But so what it is, what trichotillomania is a body focused repetitive behavioral disorder. So it's something to do with your body. It's got something to do with your focus and the focus on the body. And then it's something that you do repetitively and can't really control, if that makes sense. Um, I feel like
Yeah.
that was a pretty good
Yeah.
summation.
Yeah, I mean, there was when you were explaining how you were feeling, like you would zone out, almost like disassociate a little bit and
Yeah.
pluck your hair. I'm like, I can't relate to that. But when I used to really struggle with binge eating, I'm like, I felt like I would do the same thing where it's like my brain would shut off, but my subconscious was still
Yes.
there. And my subconscious would be like, stop, like this is not good for you. But it was like this impulse that I also had, I felt like I had no control over. So, and I knew it
Yes.
was harming me. So, moving forward, let's talk a little bit about leading up to your wedding, what that looked like. So I know you were getting married and you had a lot of fear around, lack of hair on your wedding day. So was that what led you to the spot where you're like, I need to seek help. I need to take control of this. Give us,
Yes.
a little bit of a timeline there.
So I think where I left off before was basically like how I was at that new job, didn't have anything to do. That's where it like really started. Then eventually I moved to working from home 100% of the time. So I had nobody around me or anything like that. And that was like a year and a half before my wedding. No, 2 years before my wedding ish. And then so I was doing that 100% of the time. And while you're working or whatever, like there's just like some sort of weird subconscious like thing while I was working that, some people like maybe chew on like bite their fingernails, like things like that. You know what I mean? They don't even realize it. Before I realized it, I had like hair. So like I had, let me take my little clippy out. Okay. So I had no hair like here because I feel like this was like the most vulnerable spot for me and like the most like desensitized, you know what I mean? And then like, but I had all the hair down here because I don't know if you've ever accidentally pulled hair from down here, but it hurts like a bitch. So I had like this weird, like, not even a mullet. It was like a reverse mullet. Like I had like hair back here, but like nothing going on up here, but like maybe like some like sideburn tufts of hair. It was like, yes, please laugh because it was freaking hilarious. And I got a lot of really good pictures of myself. Um, So that's by the time I realized like that, I was like, shit, like this is bad. I need to act fast. Was the November before my September wedding. So I cut all my, I call myself like Ron Jeremy back then. Cause like, that like old porn star who's got like the hair, but then like nothing going on here. So I have my Ron Jeremy. I cut my Ron Jeremy off. So I just had like little bits of hair. And then I would like cover it up with like headbands. I bought a lot of like little silk satin headbands, or hats, of course, baseball caps or like fun, hats. And I did a few things. First, yes, I sought as well. No, my lovely husband found the therapist who specializes in trichotillomania for me. She had a waiting list. I know. And he like gave me her information. And eventually I was let off the waiting list after like, I don't know, like a month. And she was super, super, super helpful. I saw her for a while, but basically in the meantime, she had me focus on like different sort of activities that I could get myself involved in, keeping these bad boys busy, keeping this guy here busy, like no matter what. Like, and for me, like fidget toys and stuff, that never worked. I wanted it to work, but it didn't work. So like I either needed to keep my hands busy or I needed to make it impossible to access my head. And by impossible, I mean like I would put my hair in a ponytail and then I would put a baseball cap on, loop my ponytail through, tighten it as much as I could. And then basically like, if I ever felt myself like loosening my cap or like my head scarf thing, like I would, in my brain, I would be like, stop it. You know what I mean? Instead of having my head like free for myself to just touch, I was covering it up with something so that was like added like an extra step. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, I also found some pretty awesome products on Amazon. I did a lot of like searching first and made sure that they were good and like, wholesome and all that stuff. But I got this like shampoo and conditioner set and then like a hair oil. And I'm not saying that they did anything, but I feel like they did, I feel like they helped because if you see, whoa, sorry about that. A picture from my wedding, which I can pull up on my phone real quick, versus, a picture from when that November, like when I had cut it all off, I had like barely anything. It's a pretty big difference for less than a year. And you're female, you know how like the rate that your hair grows is not great.
Yeah. Could improve for sure.
So this was actually, here we go. It's not like super long, but it's definitely as a whole head of hair. You know what I mean? And it was curled and stuff. And I like that is like really one of the only like not regrets, but like things I look back on for my wedding and I'm like I really wish I could have changed that because I personally don't like the way that I look with like that length of hair. The pixie I rocked hard. Okay, really hard. But this length of hair, I just like don't like it for myself. I just feel like it makes me look like a child. So that's just like the one thing I look back on from my wedding and I'm just like, but that's all right. It's all like, if my hair didn't look like that for my wedding, I wouldn't be here telling you this exact story right now. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think it looked great, but I get that. Were there any other coping mechanisms that you learned through therapy or through your own research besides like making your head inaccessible that helped you with, finding ways to cope, I guess?
Yes, but I did them and I tried them and I'll explain, but like I don't have very good willpower. I never have. So I would try them and then I would just sort of like give up on them and not, you know what I mean? Continue to try them. Then I would meet with the therapist again and she'd be like, so how are these exercises going? And I'd be like, well, good. Like things like, I guess like grounding your mind. For example, like she would say like go outside or go somewhere that makes you happy. Pick a point. Look at that point and assess everything about it. Like be in the moment with that thing that you're looking at only. So like I would go out, I have a pool, and a lot of this happened during the summer leading up to my wedding because it was in September. So I'd go out in my pool and I would like lay on a floaty and I would like stare at a cloud or a tree or whatever and just like pick every little individual detail of it apart. And it would essentially like ground me in that my brain wasn't firing off 100 billion different things all the time. And I was just like in one thought, focused on one thing only. And that definitely was like the one main thing that I found to be the most helpful. But I wish I was the kind of person who would have carried that on to this day, but I just sort of like lost touch with it and haven't really been practicing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get that. We all learn different tools in therapy and we're like, yes, we're going to do this forever. And not all of them carry forward, and that's okay. So let's talk about the shame around it. All right. So
Yeah.
was this something that, I know when you were younger, you kept it pretty deeply hidden, but as navigating this as an adult, was this something that you felt very ashamed about? Or was it something that, because I know you shared it online and that was kind of a big thing, but
Yeah.
tell us about how this all made you feel.
So right now it's January of 2024. And when I was like in the throes of this, like I was just talking to you about, was 2019, 20. So I'm in the throes of it, right? I was willing to share it then with my closest people, but it's been obviously like 3-4 years for me to get like to the point where I could actually like be like, hello world, like this is me bald, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like, so I first opened up to like my close friend, like the closest friends I had and still have at the time, but like I didn't fully open it up because I was afraid, as I'm sure you experienced too.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, I have an issue with like pulling out my hair, but I wouldn't be like, look at all of this damage that I've done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would just sort of like touch on trichotillomania, explain it to people, say what my therapist had told me, and then like they would ask questions, maybe they would look it up, Google it, whatever, and that was that. And everyone was super, super, super supportive and stuff. But like as far as like the real, like, so let me tell you some of the most shameful parts of, in my opinion, about this disorder. First and foremost is like when you're like doing it, there's something in your subconscious that like likes what you're doing. It likes the action. Even though like your conscious mind is like screaming at you like, dude, stop. Like this is unacceptable. Like this is wrong. But there's something that seeks it, like that wants more. Like I said earlier, like what, just one more, like just another one, you know what I mean? Like one more, like really curly hair, whatever the case may be. So that is something like that I found to be super, super shameful to admit. And also like the things that you're looking for. Like it's really hard to tell anyone, but especially like a super, super close person or like your husband, for example. Yes, I like to pull my hair out. I like the ones that are super coarse and curly. And like, there's like you've had hair come out of your head before. There's like something at like the end of it that like, right, like plugs it into your head or whatever.
Like the roots.
That, exactly. Yeah. There's like a little like film or whatever. Like I feel like the probably most shameful part for me, period, is like that. I guess the thing that my subconscious likes, quote unquote, is like to take the hair, right? So like I've already pulled it out. And then I like would run it through my fingers to feel that like film or whatever like, because it's like wet or ish, like kind of wet. You know what I mean? It's not wet, but it's like it just came out of your scalp, so it's not dry by any means. And it's like cold or whatever. So that was like the thing that my subconscious like enjoyed or whatever. For me, I feel like admitting that is like the fact that I've ever been able to admit that to me is wild in a good way, like just wild, like because that's a really, 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 really intimately personal and like shameful thing. You know what I mean? Like well, nobody wants to admit something like that to anybody. Um, but the fact that like so another thing that I admitted to like my husband that was super super shameful was that like when I would like, so if I was doing that, I'm in my office right now and the floor is like vinyl, like fake wood, you know what I mean? Like when it was over, when I was like done pulling my hair out and I finally like tucked myself out of it and like was like, stop. Like I would take like a Kleenex, like a tissue or whatever, and I would like go like in a circle on the floor and like collect all the hair and then throw it in the trash. And that like action, like that specific action would make me so angry and mad at myself. Like now I don't get as mad at myself or as like ashamed, but I just sort of like try to stop whatever action it is very, very, very quickly, nip it in the bud, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But whenever it did happen, doing that, like see, because basically you're collecting your shame. You're collecting a pile of your shame from the floor in like a white Kleenex, and I have super brown hair. And like I wouldn't look at it because I didn't want to see. But when you pick something up off the floor and then you put it in the trash can, like your eyes are gonna see, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that just like I would like sometimes I would even just take the bag out of in the trash bag, tie it up, even if it was like there was only a couple things in there, because I just didn't want to see it. I didn't want to be associated with it. And then I would sit there and I would just like toil over it in my brain over and over again. And just like replay what I just saw in my head to the point where like I would really, 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 really be angry. Like I would be like, not punching walls. I'm not strong enough to make a hole in the wall, but like punching walls though, like punching
Mm-hmm.
things that I'm not strong enough to break and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that's as far as shame goes, that's
Yeah.
those are all my pretty high things.
Well, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that with us. Do you feel
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
since you've went public with your story and spoke about it very openly on social media, do you feel like it's helped dissipate some of that shame that you were still carrying around and helped you cope moving
Yes.
forward?
Yes, absolutely. Because like okay, so one specific thing that stuck with me when I posted my wedding photo on Instagram was that someone who I knew from so I long story short, I worked in India for like almost 2 months for a period in 2019. And my hair was absolutely thriving then. I had this like ombre going on, like reverse ombre, whatever. He commented on, and he's lovely, but he commented, he goes, "You look beautiful, but where's all your hair? Like what happened to all your hair? You know what I mean? Why did you cut it? Like it's beautiful, but it looks so great long." And I had absolutely no answer to that I felt comfortable sharing with strangers, anyone. Not that anyone's like creeping on my Instagram comments and stuff, but like this is someone in India who I like taught. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to be like, "Well, sir, I suffer from trichotillomania. Look it up in your Indian Google." So I think I like responded like, "Oh, thank you so much," and then just ignored that part of the question. But I feel like that is like sort of, you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
trying to tie together what I was saying, but I feel like I already tied it together. Now I'm just going in circles.
No, that makes sense. That was the moment where you felt like I'm interpreting that was the moment that it sparked something within you where you're like, maybe I want to talk about this, right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So like that's the moment I remember, but it took me a while to actually get there.
Yeah.
To get there, I talking to my besties, which I don't have a lot of friends. I've never been the kind of person that had like a whole lot of friends, but the friends I do have are like super super close. They ain't going
Yep.
anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my three closest friends, um, just talking it out with them, I feel like that's sort of I don't know, it normalized it for me, and talking to my husband about it. But of course, you can be a lot more open about something that you feel ashamed about with your besties than with your husband, because you want your husband to look at you, or your spouse to look at you a certain way. Like you don't want all that luster to be gone or whatever. So my friends, I think, really helped me through it, because they would say, no, I know someone who I think was probably suffering from that, and no one ever knew. No one ever knew what to call it, or this, that, the other. So they kind of helped normalize it, and I was able to just talk about it, and I was able to make jokes and laugh about it, which, as we all know, laughter is like the best medicine. For me,
Yeah.
it's laughter and like being with people,
Yeah.
just like, joking around. So I would send them funny pictures of me with like my Ace Ventura hairstyle, because for a while, this hair here was only growing up for like at least the first like 3.5 inches. It wouldn't go anywhere but up. So I would like try to like use some mousse, and it would be like this, like, it was sexy, but like not for me. Like it was sexy for like a dude,
Yeah.
but or like a hipster dude, but not for me. But I would like send them pictures and like make jokes and like give myself like little nicknames. And they would joke back instead of like handling me with kid gloves.
Yeah.
And I think that was like probably the biggest help in like normalizing it for me,
I love
or
that.
letting me be able to talk about it openly.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm like, I've always been, have a couple close friends, but they are quality and you can talk about anything with. So I love that they were able to provide that
Yes.
space for you. So if anybody's listening right now and is struggling with this, what would your advice be to them? Or if there's no advice, it could just be kind words. What would you say to somebody struggling?
I have both advice and kind words, but I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. Advice, kind words. So,
I love that.
my advice would be, first and foremost, there are so many more people affected with this that are not, I'm not saying that they're not in your close circle, but they're not in your close circle, they're in your close circle's circle. You know what I mean? Like when I posted my things on Instagram, people who I haven't spoken to in, I don't know, 10 years, 6 years, like came out and said, like, I struggle with a form of this too. And I feel like that was like not eye opening, but it was like a healing thing for them, just as it was for me. Because they might not have posted a video or any post on their page saying, hey, I have this, but they had the courage to go on to mine and say, hey, like I struggle with this, or whatever the case may be, but they're like relating to it. So I think that finding anyone that you can, whether they're strangers, but you can find them online, like through like, different types of social media sites that, deal with this. Or I don't know, I'm thinking about like putting on a play and writing a children's book about this very disorder. So
I
like
love that.
collaborating with people, right?
I love that.
Collaborating with people, maybe finding like there's groups all over the place. I'm not saying like you're going to find a local one where you can like go to your local legion and like meet with the tricksters, but you a lot, mostly like online groups and stuff like that. But there are places where you can like chat and stuff like that. Talk it out. That's where I'm going with this. Talk it out. You need to talk it out. If you don't talk it out, or whether it be not verbally but like online or in writing, or verbally. Like you need to get it all out. You need to say everything that you say in your brain that you think to yourself, oh my God, I would never tell another soul about this ever. Like what I told you about, like, you know, the feelings that I feel like when I have the hair in my face, right? Like just keep talking about it with people that you trust and that, you know, make you feel comfortable and are lighthearted about it.
Like I mean, although I can't relate to everything you've experienced, everything that's cultivated shame for me in my life, I have overcome by talking about it.
Yeah.
And on the children's book, I'm thinking back to that 5th grade you. You should write a book for, you know, 5th grade versions of you.
That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Let's go into kind words. Somebody's
Okay,
struggling.
okay.
Kind words.
Oh, yes. So somebody's struggling. So my kind words are, number one, it's not like you are openly participating in a crime or like doing like a really, 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 really terribly addictive like drug, like by choice. You know what I mean? Like this is something that, yes, technically you are responsible for because you're doing it, but at the same time, you aren't doing it. Like your mind is your conscious is being shut off, like I said, and your subconscious is taking over. And there's something, I don't want to say wrong, but it is. There's something wrong with your subconscious. You have a disorder. It's lots of people have lots of disorders or like, you know, anything that you feel shameful about, diseases, whatever the case may be. Like,
don't feel bad.
Exactly. Thank you. You're
it's
gorgeous,
like,
by the way.
I feel
just
like
wanted to let you know that.
Thank
like
you.
Stunningly gorgeous.
Thank you. I feel like you're trying to say like this. While you're choosing it, you're also not choosing it, right?
Exactly.
Like it's,
yes.
You know,
thank you. Like I said, you're not openly participating in a crime. You're not doing something inherently wrong. Like, but all you're doing is harming yourself. So if you can tell that to your brain and tell your brain not to yell at you or be angry at you or be ashamed or be embarrassed, like you need to desensitize your conscious mind to what your problem is, because you have a disorder. You have a mental disorder. Like that's a fact. And there's nothing that, you know, there's nothing that your negative thoughts and your like negative feelings about yourself is going to do, but probably worsen the issue. So be kind to yourself, laugh about it, make jokes about it if that's your kind of humor. If not, then don't. But like I feel like everybody just beats themselves up over and over and over and over again all day or whenever they have episodes or whatever. And it's just not, it's not helpful in any way, shape, or form. And it's not going to help you grow or heal or anything in a positive direction. Those are my kind words. Was that kind?
Thank you. That was really kind. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Taylor. Well, thank you so much for being vulnerable with us today, educating us, just drawing awareness towards something that it sounds, you know, a lot of people are struggling with and isn't talked about enough. So before we let everybody go, tell the people what you're working on, where they can find you, plug whatever it is in the works for you.
What I'm working on is, and I'm gonna launch my website soon. I just have a few kinks to fix, and I'll let you know if you're, you know, interested in it. It's gonna be called Built. My initials are TH, Taylor Harris, so it's BUILTH, Built, and basically it's personal shopping, but I'm not paying for like I'm not taking your credit card information. Like you're deciding what you want to buy based on. So I'll say, hey, I'm going to put all of these things together. If you want something for the summertime or the spring, or you want like a fall wardrobe, or if you just want to go, it's wedding season, you need some dresses and some shoes. You want me to pair things with accessories, whatever the case may be. You put in your your information, your like sizes, body part you want to accentuate, different things like that, what you're looking for, what usually works for you, what doesn't. So after you put all that information in, essentially I'm going to go on to retailers that, for the most part, are financially, accessible to everyone. And I'm always looking for the sales, always looking for the sales. But basically, I would provide you with an extensive package of all of the different clothing, shoe, accessory type items. And you would decide on what you wanted and what you didn't want, and then buy it. And then, obviously there would be some sort of like a package involved, like if you wanted to do semi-annual or seasonal or something like that. So that's coming very soon. Aside from that, I'm on Instagram as at tharry. Harry. Got a little play on words there. Also, my last name is Harris. So it's TEEHARRI. Other than that, look forward to Built.
I love that idea. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Taylor, and we'll chat soon.